In this tutorial, we're going to create a detailed 2D mesh of an urban area. The mesh is going to contain some buildings or voids and also definitions of all the roadways, which will be done as very high resolution mesh elements. Let's start by looking at the details of the initial 2D zone. This is the area bounded by the red polygon. We can see that for this area we will have a maximum element size of 100 square meters and a minimum element size of 25 square meters. However, for our roadways we're going to have much higher definition. So let's pick one of the roads, which is modelled as a mesh zone, and here we can see that for those particular elements in the model we will only use a maximum size of 5 square meters for the triangles within each of the roads. In addition to that, we are going to lower all of those roads by 150 millimeters to sync them into the 2D mesh by the typical curb height that you would expect to find in an urban area. Let's start the whole process rolling by picking up our 2D zone. Then going to the Model menu, selecting Meshing and Mesh 2D Zone. We wish to include our buildings or our voids within the zone, but we don't need to include any break lines or any walls. We just need to ensure we've included the right LiDAR data and then press the OK button. The final prompt will ask which computer within our work group of computers we wish to use to create the mesh itself. We can select any computer within the 2D zone, we can let the software decide which computer to use, or we can specify a computer of our choice. In this particular case, I'm going to ask for the meshing to be done on this computer. With the settings defined, we press OK. At the bottom of the screen, the Output Sim Control dialog will show us the status of the meshing. Depending on the complexity of the mesh and the size of the model that you're meshing, this process can take from just a few seconds to just a few minutes. Throughout the whole process, we are kept updated with the progress of each part of the overall meshing that's going on. We will also be reported on the computer that's being used to do the mesh. Geometries have all now been completed, and the final stage is to index the model, at which point we'll be able to load it into our overall network and continue to the next stage. Throughout the process, as you've seen, the status bar will indicate the progress of each stage of the process. The mesh is now ready, and in the lower right corner we have the classic pop-up informing us that the job is finished and the mesh is ready to load. So we can now load that mesh using the mesh load diagram, and we will see the mesh in front of us. And you can already see that this is a very detailed mesh. If we zoom in onto a particular part of the model, we can see how the roadway contains very small elements, whereas the general zone contains much larger elements. We can include within our layers the whole topographic data to bring in more detail. And then if we zoom out very slightly from where we are, as we do that, we can see that every single building has been included as a void in the mesh. All the roads have a very detailed definition for their triangulation, and all the other open areas use the much coarser mesh. That completes this particular tutorial, where we've been generating a very detailed mesh for an urban area using InfoWorks ICM.